There we go. Hey. Hello, team. Good morning. Good to see a few of you guys there. Chris, mate, how are ya? Andrew, Michelle. Hey, good morning, team. Good to see you guys. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Everyone's jumping on right now, which is awesome. Hopefully you're all safe and well wherever you are. A little bit of rain, folks, across the east coast of Australia, and causing a little bit of havoc, but make sure you stay safe. Out there to Andrew, Nintendo, Alison, Leonie, Adrian. Oh, mate, thanks, buddy. Thanks for the shout out. Yeah, listen, folks, it's a bit wet out there, as they say, in the old in the world of the weather conversations, and it's causing a little bit of havoc, but we'll talk about that in a minute after we say hello to Carly and Alina and Marcus. Good morning. Ingrid, good to see you guys. I need my glasses because today I'm coming to you live from my iPad. The internet up in my neck of the woods is on the blink, and I think that's the same in many places around Australia, even on the East Coast at the moment. So what do they say? First world problem, you can't get the internet, but if you've got other challenges out there, stay safe and take care. I thought we'd just have a chat today about will the floods affect the property market, and we'll talk about that in a minute for sure. Quick intros as everyone's jumping on. Jason Witten's my name, kind of says it over there. If you didn't already know, most of you do. Great to see a bunch of you guys the other night in our live mentoring down in Melbourne. It was awesome to see you guys in the flesh, and looking forward to doing a few more of those trips, hanging out with you, and this year, hopefully, fingers crossed, should be the year we get to travel. We get to do a little bit of socializing and doing some stuff. I don't know. Hey, listen, one little thing I just did, kind of just had a realization from the other night, how inefficient, right? How inefficient some things can be, or that things were prior to COVID, e.g. traveling for 2 days, and then thinking about the quality or the reason that you're traveling. This for me anyway, I'm off topic a little bit here this morning, just waiting till everything warms up. Make it valuable, make it important why I would travel now. And the other night was a great night. That was an awesome night, awesome to hang out with you guys, and that's the only reason I'll travel now, because if I can do some great stuff and hang out with cool people and spend some time away from my family, well, better be worth it. So it was worth it. Thanks for you guys hanging out, and thanks, Chris. Good shout out. And live mentoring was the highlight so far for Alison. So that's great, Alison. Awesome, mate. Thank you. And anyone who's new, if you're dropping by and saying hello or finding us on the Wealth Coffee Chats this morning, we do this most mornings, other than yesterday. I caught up and had breakfast with Michelle, actually, one of the listeners on here, and a long-time client, and an absolutely lovely lady. And we hung out for breakfast, and we didn't get around to the Wealth Coffee Chat yesterday, but today we're catching up. And if you want to get the regular updates, I do them daily, Monday to Friday, most days of the week, and they start around about 8:10 or 9:10, wherever you are. Anyway, there you go. There's the intros. Yes, we had halloumi and bacon and other things, many coffees as well. We did have coffees in the morning, and we did have a chat. So it just wasn't live. Maybe we should have just had it live, Michelle. Anyway, I'm rabbiting on. Let's get on and talk about today. A few people have been affected by floods flooding right now and in the past. And I had a question the other night, will the Brisbane floods affect the property market? And the answer is yes, it will. The floods, by and large, have not been as severe as they were the previous time it's flooded, which is fabulous, but it has been pretty significant for a lot of people. Lost a lot of things, houses, those sorts of things down in the northern rivers, the northern New South Wales. It's been absolutely horrific down there. A lot of people have, had their houses completely flooded and lost furniture, lost all sorts of things. So big shout out and big loving energy out to those people, really feeling for everyone in that situation right now. And it's heading south. It's just given Sydney a bit of a touch up the last few days, and hopefully it blows offshore and heads out to the ocean. But will it affect the property market? The answer is yes. And tell me, team, right now, feeling for everyone in the world of real estate right now. But what's happening right now? What has just happened over the last 3 to 5 years? We've had a reduction in the supply of real estate to the market, and you guys have heard me talk about this, often. The reduction in supply started when APRA was, geniuses, and they decided to remove incentives and opportunities for the marketplace to produce properties, to bring them to market, which was, interesting decision. Interesting's maybe a polite word of saying. To be honest, I thought it was just the stupidest thing that they did. They poleaxed the property market, and not only did they poleax the investor market, which brings properties to marketplace, investors bring new stock into the world, and it's a very important part of the cycle of property supply, because investors get projects off the ground, and then APRA in its wisdom and the government in its wisdom or lack of wisdom poleaxed that process pretty severely. And ever since sort of 2018, 19, we have been seeing the reduction in supply in primary places around Australia of new properties, and the supply going down and the demand starting to outstrip supply significantly. And to the point, COVID didn't start this challenge, but it certainly exacerbated and accelerated it. And we're now in, severe undersupplies for construction supply to the market. Not only did APRA slow it down, and it dropped in some cases, 80, 70, 80% in some cases. Then along came COVID, which everyone went, hey, let's slow down, let's stop, let's rethink. We're not going to dive into anything new right now. Hey, good morning, my love, Shay Whitten. We're not going to dive into anything new right now. We need to let it sit and work out what's going to go on. Then we had a stimulus from the government, which is like, yoo-hoo, let's go. Low interest rates, stimulus from the government, already extremely low supply. Now the government gave away money like drunken sailors, free money everywhere. All of those people who have not entered the market because they couldn't afford to now had deposits up to 20, 30, 40, 50 grand of free cash and incentives and bonuses given away by the government. And then a new supply of thousands of people, buyers, not investors, by the way, owner-occupiers. So the investors didn't get encouraged to enter the market. The owner-occupiers got encouraged to enter the market, team. And so now even more supply got stripped out of the supply chain. So where the investors were bringing supply into the market. Now all the owner-occupiers took it because it was only the predominant incentive was for new property. And then what happened? So we got this knock-on effect, right? We got it first actually started, folks. It first actually started when the government said, hey, listen, we don't want any overseas investors in Australia. Now, I'm 50-50 on that one. I think they could have done it a whole lot better, but I think that was an absolute train wreck flaw. Okay, we don't have enough people in Australia to bring enough stock to market. But anyway, on the flip side, there's some other things about, you know, the arbitrage of other people's dollars from other countries being more powerful than people who live in Australia, and Australian people not being able to buy the properties. But, you know, that's not today's discussion. So what happened is we had investors who were bringing stock to market eliminated like that overnight, literally tens of thousands of them. Then APRA said, oh, hang on, let's make borrowing harder, and let's make borrowing specifically hard for investors, because investors are whatever. I mean, they've got brain, like this shit for brains, to be honest. So now we've got no investors from overseas. Australian investors have been given the punch. Then along comes COVID. We're like, holy shiver me timbers, let's not do anything. Then what happens is the government says, let's give free money, not to investors, not to people who bring stock to the market for rental, but give it to owner-occupiers. I don't have any problems with that. I helped heaps of clients take advantage of free money with the government. So all of now, the stock that was already limited got sucked out of the marketplace. So now we're 5 challenges in. So the stock has been sucked out of the marketplace, free money to owner-occupiers, investors are still, you know, held back. And then what happens? We have a construction cost acceleration, all right? So we've got a construction costs increasing. So now if you think about all of those effects, folks, we are now at, you know, and I was calling it this for 6 months, 12 months. We're in an absolute disaster when it comes to supply. Supply is absolutely poleaxed. You guys heard me said this. And now, very unfortunately, very sadly, you know, a lot of the East Coast has now received significant amounts of flooding. And now that has also now temporarily removed some property and some supply into the marketplace, okay? And the other thing that's actually removing supply right now is Airbnb, local holidaying, and tourists coming back to Australia. People are taking their properties out of the long-term rental pool and putting it into the Airbnb pool. There'll be 5,000 to 8,000 properties over the next 2 years that get removed out of long-term and into short-term. Folks, you watch. So anyway, we've got this knock-on effect, and now we have a flood, flooding all up and down the East Coast in certain locations. Some locations are getting it worse than others. And again, very sadly, that is removing stock and supply from the market in already severely undersupplied places. You know, the Northern Rivers, which doesn't receive a lot of investment because it is kind of a very, you know, very minimal supply marketplace. You know, there was already nothing to live in, and now, you know, hundreds and hundreds of homes have been affected. You know, that's hundreds and hundreds of families. That's thousands and thousands of people. You know, where are they going to live, folks? You know, and the government, absolutely useless. Like, you know, that's happening in Brisbane. Certain suburbs in Brisbane have been affected pretty significantly. One of the positives about the planning in Brisbane specifically, team, if you're thinking about the Brisbane market, and that's what I said in my intro this morning, you know, will it affect the Brisbane market? The new properties. So we've got a significant amount of properties under construction right now in Brisbane, and not one of those sites were affected by the flooding. They were certainly affected by the rain, but the flooding. And one of the upsides of, you know, that terrible, terrible flood, you know, many years ago was the Brisbane City Council redesigned and rewrote the flood overlays and where you could build and where you can't build and things like that. So the upshot of these recent floods, it's 99% affecting existing real estate in some of those areas that were going to be affected anyway when floods happen, because unfortunately many years ago, we didn't plan in this way. And then the newer developments, the newer townhouses and apartments and subdivisions and things like that are, for the most part, completely flood not affected, but they're certainly rain affected as we go in there. Yeah, and Alexis, as we have a look at all of those sites, there's some pretty significant now flood barriers, not flood barriers, but flood planning in there. So that's a good upside as you go today. Yep, and there you go, folks. Big shout out. Grab Sammy Saggers, my compadre, who is my compadre. I'm going to block this. There's someone doing some spamming on here. I always get one or two spammers on the chat. Yes, Sam Saggers, the urban property investor, folks. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Sam's podcast. And he just did a podcast that's out today: flooding, war, pandemics, etc., and how that affects the market, which is good. So Alison subscribed to that one. You should too. If you want to grab any of these Wealth Coffee chats, they're fast and furious every day. The team upload them as a podcast as well. They're all also loaded into YouTube, into our Positive Mentor YouTube, and our Facebook group, and so on. And so is Sam's stuff there, folks, as well. So, that's, unfortunately, it is affecting the market in a negative way for the people who need places to live. I think for the most part, most people, investors and people who need to rent somewhere with the flood affected, be gentle, team. This is not a normal marketplace. Look after each other. Don't do any, price gouging on people who are desperate because they've just had their homes flooded. Feeling for everyone in that space. But what I think will happen, folks, unfortunately, that will only accelerate and exacerbate for people who are trying to rent the rent increases and or prices of properties in those flood affected areas. It's going to take many months to get those houses back into operation. Many months, 6 months, 12 months in some circumstances. I would, from last time, the insurance companies are already overrun. Not overrun, but because there's a construction boom on, the people who would do the insurance work now will be delayed months and months and months. And then, insurance work now is going to pump up the prices. Like, there's all sorts of knock-on effects we have. We've got a severe shortage of properties in the marketplace, folks. We've got a severe shortage of talent in the country, folks. And unless the government fixes both of those smart, then we're going to continue to see challenges and opportunities as investors into the future when it comes to some of this stuff. So there you go. That's my take on the floods, and check out what Sam says in his podcast. I've got a few things in here, a few questions. Yeah, thanks, Marie. Yeah, listen, investors bring properties to market, folks. We are a very important part of the supply chain. Owner-occupiers do not buy by and large, unless severely incentivized, newer properties because they want it now. They're like, I'm going to move. I've decided to buy a property. I need to move there tomorrow, right? So we're very important, extremely important to the supply chain, and the banks and the governments treat us like shit, to be honest. I think they need their heads read. Anyway, it's worse in New Zealand, to be honest. But let's not talk about that today. All right. I've got a few other little comments at the bottom here. Aaron, yeah, the council is buying up flood-prone areas. Yeah, sometimes the councils do buy them back, Aaron, so people don't try to rezone them and all those sorts of things. Yeah, interesting times. All right, folks, that's it. Wealth Coffee Chat done and dusted. Didn't have my fancy iPad or whiteboard or anything today. Hopefully that was a useful conversation about the supply chain and will the floods affect the marketplace? They will. And unfortunately for the people who are affected, not in a great way. So there you go. Anyway, wherever you are, at these moments in time, I always say to people, listen, look after each other, do the best you can with what you got, and, you know, be empathetic with those who are, you know, without a home at the moment or whatever it might be. As landlords, you know, we get to supply, you know, places to live for people for all sorts of situations. And if that's you right now, you know, you guys take care, look after each other, pay it forward a little bit, yeah, see you guys tomorrow. Thanks, team. Wealth Coffee Chat done and dusted. Over and out. You guys are awesome. Great to hang out. Join me tomorrow around about the same time, 8, 10, 9, 10, wherever we are, and we'll have another yarn. If you've got any questions, put it in the chat for me. Anytime, put it in the chat. I'll see it the next day or the day after, and away we go. All right, team. Have a good one. Bye-bye.